Well, an organisation like JASANZ, what drew me? Well, there's lots to like about it. My name is James Galloway. I'm the Chief Executive of the Joint Accreditation System of Australia and New Zealand. So in 3 weeks, I'll be retiring from JASANZ after 16 years. And that's been quite a time, quite an extraordinary time. When I began, it was very much a technical organisation. It ran according to the rules of standards. And over time, we've learnt that we've had to adapt and change in order to match the changing circumstances around us. And it's been quite dramatic in retrospect. Well, an organisation like JASANZ, what drew me? Well, there's lots to like about it. The main thing for me are I had a history of working in the area through industry associations and related work and standards. It's very appealing to work for an organisation where the focus is on others. And in accreditation, you're actually thinking most about the benefits and the outcomes of your contribution to things like the safety of products, the integrity of processes, the acceptance of products that are produced in Australia and New Zealand and sent overseas. So lots to like. It is all about protection and safety of consumers. What you're doing is putting information tokens into the market, which is our certificates, and those certificates stand for something. It helps people to relate a product to a standard or an organisation to a set of values and practices, such as a management system, and gives them a sense of what those products and those organisations stand for when the individuals themselves may not have the time or the expertise to actually make those judgments themselves. And I think that's great. Helps markets work better. So during my time at JASANZ, I think one of the biggest challenges was recognising that we weren't just a technical organisation. We weren't just about standards and requirements. We're actually part of the market. We're part of the legal and economic system that goes towards putting goods and services on the market. And so we had to change our thinking. We had to stop thinking just in terms of meeting a standard and consider all those other things that were very important. How we behaved, how we set our rules, what the standards were for judging our rules, even what the standards for a successful performance of the accreditation system were. These are all the important transitions that I think we had to make to get from where we were to where we are now. Biggest highlights? I think in general growth. For me, there are limits to growth. You don't want an unlimited number of certification bodies. You don't want an unlimited number of schemes. But what you do want are schemes that are effective and cabs that are equally effective and competent in what they do. So coming to grips with those sorts of challenges, being able to balance the need for some growth, but also against qualitative standards, very, very important. Really, really important. It's not just a numbers game, accreditation. You've got to always think about the fact that you're working on behalf of other people. You're doing a job which is going to help people make decisions. And so you have to really think about effectiveness. You can't always be thinking about your own bottom line. You can't ignore that, but it becomes the case where you may have to put some effort in for no direct reward back to the organisation, but because you're actually working towards a benefit for other parties. Other things that have been highlights for me, I think taking a gamble on something like learning and development. Right? You know, when you're working in a technical services organisation, there's always a knowledge burden that you've got to carry. But a lot of that is codified in standards. But a lot of what you actually need to do in order to deliver an effective service, it's not codified. And we invested in learning and development as a capability in order to fill those gaps, to ensure that the knowledge base that was supporting not just JASANZ and our people, but also certification bodies and scheme owners, was up to the task of helping them make the best possible choices that they could. One of the things that I think has been established by recent effort is the validity of our futures program. So this was something that was inspired by our discussions with industry, where industry was coming to us several years ago and saying, look, we've got a problem. We're actually running out of competent people to fill the roles of industry engagement with standards and conformity infrastructure. They're just retiring, they're leaving the workforce. How do we replace them? And so we sat down and we developed a program with industry which would help educate bright young things about standards, about conformity assessment, and how they actually helped service industry needs and help markets work better. We did our first program this year, and it's been really successful. It's had a great impact on those that participated, and I think it actually will fulfil its promise for the future of giving us a pool of people who understand what technical infrastructure is and who will contribute because they see a public benefit, a public good out of that activity. After 16 years, I sort of can look forward and think about some of the things that accreditation needs to address for the future. One of the things I really would like to see, and I think the seeds have been sown for this, is to really get to grips with the opportunities that information technology offers. Both from the point of view of improving service delivery, but also in some respects revolutionising service delivery. Looking at a whole new set of methods, being able to draw on a whole new network of stakeholders who you just can't reach because you don't have the time or resources or people on the ground to necessarily get out and meet everyone. But with some of these sophisticated systems that are coming on board now, we've got the opportunity of reaching them, of opening up channels of communication which have never been there before. I think that's really important. I don't see it as a threat to accreditation or conformity assessment generally. I see it as an aid. And the reason why I say that is because even when we look into the future, we can see that our stakeholders, they might have a similar view about technology, but when they think about conformity assessment, when they think about values like trust and integrity, they always have the idea that they'd like human beings to be behind that. So the critical thing for the future is to see the effective integration of the human side of accreditation, that is the assessors getting out there, doing their assessment, making their judgments, but perhaps supplementing that with that wider network of interaction we can get through information technology to deliver a more efficient process and a more effective process for everyone. If you want to carry accreditation forward into the future, the critical thing is investment in people. Now, sometimes that's not just training or things of that nature. Sometimes it's about getting them the right tools, giving them the right experiences, and ensuring that people who are involved in accreditation aren't constrained to their own little world. They've got opportunity to get out there and see what happens in wider industry, see what happens in trade between different markets, different jurisdictions, to understand the quality and characteristics of good regulation so that they can position themselves and make the right sort of judgments to really service those important aspects of contemporary life. Well, I've got a lot of things I would just like to do. You know, for the first few weeks, I'm just going to take it easy, and I'm really reconciled to the fact that I have a few weeks of doing nothing. You know, I've got some family prospects to look forward to, a little bit of travel, and then I'll come back to Australia mid-year and perhaps pick up a little bit of work, but on a very, very small part-time basis. That's what I'm looking forward to.